I wanted to do a video on a heavyweight by the name of Taishan Dong, a Chinese heavyweight. You may not have heard of this guy. If you haven't heard of him, I would suggest it's very likely you will hear of him in addition to this video in 2015. There are two main reasons why. Firstly, at 7 feet tall, he's an individual who's going to get people talking. If this guy stood next to Tyson Fury, he would be quite obviously a taller, rangier man. Secondly, he's been signed from debut by Golden Boy Promotions. He's relocated to the United States and is training with Buddy McGirt. He's had 2 fights so far, both of which have ended in knockouts, first round and second round knockout. And both of those have already been televised, as I understand it, on HBO. So this is a guy who's going to get attention. This is a guy who's got backing. He's got a serious trainer, a serious promotional outfit behind him. And he's the kind of guy who's certainly going to catch people's interest. Obviously, we know how big the Chinese boxing market has the potential to be. We know how easy it would be to get behind a heavyweight of this sheer size. He's not carrying, he's almost a lean guy. He's well muscled. He's certainly not a fat guy, and I think he's walking around at about 21 stone, 7 foot. We're looking here, in many ways, at a more athletic Nikolai Valuev. He's slightly lighter on his feet than Valuev, and I think, as a result, this guy has got huge money-making potential behind him. That's the upside. Now, I've seen a few articles on him, specifically one on worldboxingnews.net, saying that in a stale division he's got the potential to make some serious waves in 2015. My honest answer is I'm not convinced, and I'm going to discuss why. Let me start by saying I appreciate that at 7 foot and at 21 stone you're going to be able to beat up on smaller men. The heavyweight division is a wide division. If he's coming to the ring at 280, 290 pounds against a Steve Cunningham type fighter, he's always going to be live in that matchup because they're separated by 5, 6 stone, 9, 10 inches. They're men who would be separated by multiple weight divisions if it wasn't for the huge gap that we see at heavyweight. Of course he's going to be live in fights like that, but I see certain frailties to his game. I understand his background is in kickboxing and martial arts, and I don't think he's got the full sort of boxing pedigree and technical boxing skills to make it in the game. If I was handling this guy, I would keep him at journeyman level for a long time. He's only 26 years old. You don't have to rush the guy. So I'd build him up very slowly, because already there's big frailties to his game. In his first fight, he fought a guy by the name of Alex Rosman in a 4-rounder. Rosman's record going into that fight was 2 wins and 6 losses. In his second fight, he fought a guy called Tommy Washington Jr., who, as I understand it, was returning out of a 5-year prison stretch with a record of 3 wins and 6 losses. Dong certainly carries power. He's got a good lead left hand, a good jab, powerful jab. In fact, he drops his first opponent just purely with a jab. He also turns that front hand into a hook, a nice leading hook. Clearly, this guy is very big, and he carries some power. But it's not Deontay Wilder power. It's not frightening power. He's not sparking these guys out. You know, in my opinion, these guys were both overmatched and they both quit. Neither of them were, and I've watched both the fights, they're both on YouTube, so I'd recommend looking them up. Neither of them are terrible, devastating knockouts. Neither of them, the guys couldn't have carried on from realistically. It's that both the guys didn't come to win, and, you know, knew that they didn't have a chance of winning. So they called it a day. So I think he does have power, and I know it's early stages in his career, but power is something that is, you can train power, you can get more powerful. Power is a natural attribute, and despite all the hype surrounding this guy, and I presume he will have an array of first round knockouts on his CV in a year's time, he's not got Deontay Wilder or David Price power, in my opinion. I also think that at his height, there's a tendency, yeah, what is the ultimate heavyweight? I appreciate we're in an age where heavyweights like the Klitschko's, Lennox Lewis, maybe even more recent example being Tyson Fury, these monsters, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 17, 18, 19 stone, are ruling the roost. But I think there's such a thing as being too big. And I think when you're 7 foot tall, it's hard to have the agility, to have the footwork that is required to become a world championship level fighter. That's not my only concern about Dong. It's not just his height. It's not just his lack of agility that would be obvious with every sort of 7 foot heavyweight. The guy is imminently hittable. Alex Rosman, in their first fight, at times presses the action and comes forward. Taishan Dong looks very, very weak at this point on his back foot. He doesn't know what to do when an opponent's coming towards him. He's happy to come forward and jab an opponent's head off and then throw a right hand. But when an opponent comes forward, even in a very limited barroom brawl fashion, he backs up, he panics. His guard is low, his defensively he's not very sound. And a heavyweight prospect signed by Golden Boy for his debut, you wouldn't expect to take as many clean shots as he did from Alex Rosman, who was 2-6 at the time in their first fight. I mean, make no mistake, Rosman catches this guy clean on multiple occasions. And Rosman is not being technical here. He's rushing forward and throwing windmill haymakers. You know, Dong took the punches and was able to throw back more. But you won't be able to do that in 5 or 6 fights' time. His hands are also very low. As he progresses, he's going to face opponents who'll put him in his back foot. He's going to face taller, bigger opponents. They won't be his height, but they may well be 6'5", 6'6". And if he keeps his hands that low, the guy's going to be in trouble. My other concern is his inaccuracy. When he lands, he looks good because he's in against much smaller, overmatched opponents. And as I say, despite the fact I don't think he's got one punch knockout power, he's hitting hard, too hard for these guys, and he's getting his job done. But the guy has a tendency to be wildly inaccurate. I mean, if you watch his 2 fights, some of the hooks and uppercuts he throws, they're not missing by 2 or 3 inches. He's missing by a foot at times. He's not setting opponents up correctly with the jab just yet. His timing isn't there. His accuracy isn't there. His footwork may never be there. His defence certainly isn't there. His back foot boxing certainly isn't there. Now, I don't mean to be overly critical for a young man who is very, very new to the sport. But we're 2 fights in and there's already waves of excitement about this guy. If we compare him to our own Anthony Joshua after 2 fights, or perhaps even Hughie Fury, after 2 fights. I'd take both of those guys over Taishan Dong. He's too defensively open. He's too weak on his back foot. His movement is too limited. And I think with all the hype that's going to surround this guy, which I expect to grow, being a huge untapped market in China and being promoted by Golden Boy, I would really suggest that this guy is 1 to 2 years off fighting anyone remotely decent. Because some of the mistakes he's making are really poor. Sort of basic stuff. And it would be a shame to rust this guy. Let me give an example. Anthony Joshua fought Denis Baktov in his 9th fight. Taishan Dong is a long way off fighting an opponent like Denis Baktov at present. The way Baktov fights, you didn't see it against Joshua because Joshua completely nullified his game. But Baktov rushes in. He throws flurries of power punches, hooks, he works the body, he goes high to the head, uppercuts. He'll put you on your back foot. He'll rush forward. He's also durable. I know it didn't look like it against Joshua. But typically, he's durable. A fighter like Denis Baktov would have the potential to cause severe problems for this heavyweight prospect. Matt Skelton, who Joshua fought even earlier in his career, in his 5th or 6th fight. Someone tricky, someone who's going to put pressure on you, someone who's going to put their head on your chest. That's going to put Taishan Dong very ill at ease. He's not going to know what to do. He's not going to know how to deal with the pressure. So I think with this heavyweight, there is potential. There's always going to be when someone's athletic, when someone's that size, when someone's got the jab he's got, when someone's got the trainer and promoter he's got. But I would suggest his next 2 or 3 fights need to be at the level of his first 2. Because the way he was taking punches in his very first fight, even if that was coming from the likes of a Skelton or a Baktov or an Ares, there's going to be problems. I hope I'm not being overly harsh. I probably am, considering it's his 2nd fight. But there's buzz about this guy online. I think the fact that he's 7 foot shouldn't make us forget the boxing basics. If anyone else has got views on this guy, I'd like to hear them. I'd really like to hear them, positive or negative. Thanks for watching.